The Buddha continued, "What do you think, Subhuti? If a follower were to give away enough treasure to fill 3,000 universes, would a great blessing and merits incur to him or her?" Subhuti replied, "Honored one, such a follower would acquire considerable blessings and merits." The Buddha said, "Subhuti, if such a blessing has had any sustainability, if it were anything other than a figure of speech, the most honored one would not use the words blessing and merits." Subhuti, what do you think? Should one look for Buddha in his perfect physical body? No, perfectly enlightened one. One should not look for Buddha in his perfect physical body. Why? The Buddha has said that the perfectly physical body is not the perfect physical body. Therefore, it is called the perfectly physical body. Subhuti, what do you think? Would one look for Buddha in all his perfect appearance? No, most honored one. One should not look for Buddha in all his perfect appearance. Why? The Buddha has said perfect appearance or not perfect appearance. Therefore, they are called perfect appearance. Subhuti, do not maintain that Buddha has thought, "I have spoken spiritual truth." Do not think that way. Why? If someone said the Buddha has spoken spiritual truth, he slandered the Buddha's due to his inability to understand what the Buddha teaches. Subhuti, as to teaching truth, speaking truth, no truth can be spoken. Therefore, it is called speaking truth. At all times, Subhuti, the wise elder addressed the Buddha, "The most honored one, will there be living beings in the future who believes in this sutra when they hear it?" The Buddha said, "The living beings to whom you refer are neither living beings or not living beings." Why? Subhuti, all the different kinds of living beings the Buddha speaks of are not living beings, but they are referred to as living beings. Subhuti again asked, "Blessed one, when you attain a complete enlightenment, did you feel in your mind that nothing had been acquired?" The Buddha replied, That is exactly, Subhuti. When I attained total enlightenment, I did not feel, as the mind feels, any arbitrary concepts of spiritual truth, not even the slightest. Even the words total enlightenment are merely words. They are used merely as figure of speech. Furthermore, Subhuti, that I have attained in total enlightenment is the same as what all others have attained. It is undifferentiated, regards it neither as a high state nor a low state. It is wholly independent of any definite or arbitrary conceptions of any individual self, other self, living beings, or universal beings. Subhuti, when someone is selfishly charitable, they should also practice being ethical by remembering that there is no distinction between oneself and the selfhood of others. Thus, one practices charity by not giving gifts, but through kindness and sympathy. Practice kindness and charity without attachment, and you can fully enlightened. Subhuti, what I just said about kindness does not mean that when someone is being charitable, they should hold on arbitrary conceptions about kindness, for kindness is, after all, only a word, and charity needs to be spontaneous and selfless, done without regards for appearance. The Buddha continued, Subhuti, if a person collected treasures as high as 3,000 of the highest mountains and gave them all to the others, their merit should be less than what would occur to another person is simply observed and studied the sutra and out of kindness explained it to others. The later person would accumulate hundreds of times the merit, hundreds of thousands of millions of times of the merits. There is no conceivable comparison. Subhuti, do not say that the Buddha has the idea, I will lead all sentient beings to the nirvana. Do not think that way. Subhuti, why? In truth, there is not one single being for the Buddha to lead the enlightenment. If the Buddha were to think there was, he would be caught in the idea of self, a person, a living being, or a universal self. Subhuti, what the Buddha called a self essentially has no self in the way that ordinary person think there is a self. Subhuti, the Buddha does not regard anyone as an ordinary person. That is why he can speak of them as ordinary person. Then the Buddha inquired of Subhuti, what do you think, Subhuti? Is it possible to recognize the Buddha by its 32 physical marks? Subhuti answered, replied, yes, most honored one, the Buddha may thus be recognized. Subhuti, if that were true, then Chakravartin, the mythological king who also had the 32 marks, would be called the Buddha? The Subhuti, realizing his error, said, most honored one, now I realize that the Buddha cannot be recognized merely by his 32 physical marks as of excellence. The Buddha then said, should anyone looking at an image or likeness of the Buddha claim to know the Buddha and worship him, that person would be mistaken, not knowing the true Buddha. However, Subhuti, if you think that Buddha realized the highest, most fulfilled and awakened mind, and does not need to have all the marks, you are mistaken. Subhuti, do not think in that way. Do not think that when one gives rise to the highest, most fulfilled and awakened mind, one needs to see all objects of mind as non-existence, cut off from life. Please do not think in that way. One who gives rise to the highest, most fulfilled and awakened mind does not contend that all objects of mind are non-existent and cut off from the life. That is not what I say. The Buddha continued, Subhuti, if someone gives treasure equal to the number of sands on the shore of the Ganges River, and if another, having realized the egolessness of all things, thereby understands selflessness, the latter would be more blessed than the one who practiced external charity. Why? Because great disciples do not see blessing and merits as a private possession, as something to be gained. Subhuti inquired of the Buddha, what do you mean, great disciples does not see blessing and merit as a private possession? The Buddha replied, because those blessing and merits have never been sought after by those great disciples. They do not see them as private possession, but they see them as the common possessions of all beings. The Buddha said, Subhuti, if any person were to say that the Buddha is now coming or going, or sitting up or lying down, they would have not understood this principle I have been teaching. Why? Because while the expression Buddha means he who has thus come, thus gone, the true Buddha is never coming from anywhere or going anywhere. The name Buddha is merely an expression, a figure of speech. One who has thus gone, and no one has thus come. The Buddha resumed, Subhuti, if any good person, neither man or woman, were to take 3,000 galaxies and grind them into microscopic power, and blow it into space, what would you think? Would this power have any individual existence? Subhuti replied, yes, as a microscopic powder blown into space, it might be said to have relative existence. But as you use words, it has no existence. Words are used only as a figure of speech. Otherwise, the words would imply a belief in the existence of matter as an independent and self-existing things, which is not. Furthermore, the most honored one refers to the 3,000 galaxies. He could only do so as a figure of speech. Why? Because if the 3,000 galaxies really existed, their only reality would consist in their cosmic unity, whether a microscopic powder as a galaxy. What does this matter? Only in the sense of the cosmic unity of ultimate being can Buddha rightly refer to it. The Buddha was very pleased with his reply and said, Subhuti, although ordinary people have always grasped after an arbitrary conceptions of matter and galaxies, the concept has no true basis. It is an illusion of mortal mind. Even when it is referred to as cosmic unity, it is unthinkable and unknowable. The Buddha continued, if any person were to say that Buddha, in his teaching, has constantly referred to himself, to other selves, to a living thing, or to a universal self, what do you think? Would that person have understood my meaning? Subhuti replied, no, blessed one, that person would not have understood the meaning of your teaching. For when you refer to those beings, you are not referring to their actual existence. You only use the words as figure of speech, as symbol. Only in that sense can words be used for conception, ideas, limited truth. Spiritual truth have no more reality than have matter or phenomena. Then the Buddha made this meaning even more emphatic by saying, Subhuti, when people begin their practice of speaking attaining total enlightenment, they ought to see, to perceive, to know, to understand, and to realize that all things and all spiritual truth are no things, and therefore they ought not to conceive within their minds any arbitrary conceptions whatsoever. Buddha art continued, Subhuti, if anyone gave to the Buddha an immeasurable quantity of the seven treasures sufficient to fill the whole universe, and if any one person, whether a man or woman, in seeking to attain complete enlightenment, were to earnestly and faithfully observe and study even a single section of the sutra and explain it to others, the accumulated blessings and merits of that later person would be far greater. Subhuti, how can one explain the sutra to others without holding in mind any arbitrary conceptions of forms or phenomena or spiritual truth? It can only be done, Subhuti, by teaching the mind in perfect tranquility and free from any attachment to appearances. So I say to you, this is how to contemplate our conditioned existence in this fleeting world, like a tiny drop of dew, or a bubbling floating in the stream, like a flash of lightning in a summer cloud, or a flickering lamp, an illusion, a phantom, or a dream. So is all conditioned existence to be seen. Thus spoke Buddha. thanks for joining us as always, and I hope you have a lovely day as you are, and I'll see you tomorrow.